The three architects. We used to only know that they made the floors and the entities, but after the floor 2 update, I did some digging and found out what all 3 will do, and even how the game will end with them all trying to kill us. Let's start with Guiding Light. From what we know, Guiding Light is on our side and is trying his best to guide us through the doors to help us escape. We know that his power is limited, however, because he can't just kill entities forever, and he also can't just take us out of doors to prevent us from constantly dying. We also know that the other lights can limit his power, because when modifiers are on, and when we are in pocket dimensions, he isn't present and is unable to guide us, which is why we see Curious Light instead of him. We also know that his power has to be channeled through objects like the crucifix to kill entities temporarily. However, even with his maximum power, we know that when we try to crucify a big entity like Seek or the figure, they are broken free by Mischievous Light because the blue sigil turns red and breaks. But this begs the question, why is Guiding Light's power limited by the other architects? Is it because he helps us and try to prevent us from repeatedly dying to the same entities? That's what I thought at first, until I looked back at the statue of Guiding Light in the courtyard. The angel that this statue represents is an archangel. Archangels are mostly depicted as guardians, messengers, and guides, which perfectly portray who Guiding Light is. Guiding Light is like our guardian archangel, guiding us throughout the game to help us progress, protecting us from Seek and the figure through blocking doors, and giving us messages after we die on how to get past the entities. Not just this, but underneath the statue of Guiding Light, there is a coded message that says Limbo. Limbo in Catholic belief is a place where unbaptized souls go to stay after they die, because they were rejected from God, but because they didn't sin against God or know God, they weren't sent to hell, so God sends them to Limbo. However, I don't think that we are actually in Limbo indoors. Think about it. If it was Limbo, then doors would be infinite, and we know, because of the direct inspiration from Spooky's jump scare mansion, doors will end at door 1000, which means that we might actually be in purgatory. I say this because of 2 things. One, if Guiding Light is an archangel, then he would be from God. So if it was Limbo, then we wouldn't be in contact with him, because Limbo is separate from God. And 2, we are clearly dealing with sins here in the form of the entities. Think about it. Guiding Light says to us that the entities are what we would call, not what he or the other architects would call, meaning that their names are unknown to us and more than likely have a deeper meaning. Purgatory is where baptized people who haven't gotten their last rites or have died on the battlefield go to atone for their sins until they are ready to be with God. This would mean that all of the entities that we are dealing with are our past sins that we are having to endure. This would also explain why Guiding Light can kill some of the weaker entities like Rush or Giggles, who might represent something like a white lie, but can only restrict more powerful ones like the Figure, or Seek, who might represent the deadly sins of greed or rage, which is why they are able to break free, because they are more powered up with the help of the other architects. That brings us to our next architect, Mischievous Light. We don't know much about her other than that she is the one who breaks entities free in the doors and is the one who makes the modifiers. But even with that information, we can determine that she is against us. This is because from the modifiers, we can tell that she has control over the entities indoors. This more than likely means that she either created them or just has genuine power over them. Now, at first, I thought that she was the devil. I mean, the entities represent sin, and the devil makes humans sin, hence the control. But I actually don't think that's the case. This is because of 2 main reasons. One, the devil was Lucifer before God banished him to hell because he betrayed God. This would make the devil be addressed by he instead of she. And 2, L Splash already confirmed that despite the crucifix doors just takes loose inspiration from Christianity. So from this I concluded that Mischievous Light is Lilith. If Mischievous Light is Lilith, it would explain the female pronouns and also the power level. Lilith is from false documents of Genesis labeled as overzealous fan fiction. Lilith was Adam's original wife that was created alongside Adam but was separated from him when Lilith didn't listen to Adam, causing God to banish her to marry Satan. This would explain the power level and relation to sin that she has over the player. It would make her as powerful as Guiding Light, but not as powerful as Satan. This would also mean that she is trying to drag us down to hell and make us give up on trying to redeem ourselves in purgatory, which would stem from her hatred for all of humanity and God after what God and Adam did to her. So, from this, we know that doors take place in purgatory and is based off of Catholicism and Bible fan fiction like Lilith, which would also make the God of the Doors universe being much more vague and indirect, making the God of the Doors universe Curious Light. Now, I know that sounds like a huge stretch because we've barely got to know anything about Curious Light. The most that we've seen of him has been in the rooms and the back doors that we weren't even supposed to go into in the first place. But what if I told you that from these interactions alone, he almost completely tells us who he is? When we we meet Curious Light, he doesn't say you died, he just says, oh, you're dead, and then proceeds to not help us much on what to do. He more or so expects us to be better, like how the God portrayed in the Lilith story expected her to be better, and also was much less helpful than the God in the Christian Bible. More proof of this would be how Curious Light has the ability to make objects like the levers in the back rooms which the other lights can't do, meaning that he is a creator of some sort, possibly hinting at him creating doors. This would mean that he has the capability to take us out of the back rooms, but instead chooses to just help us and see if we can endure, just like how the God in Catholicism would make soldiers have to deal with their sins instead of just helping them directly. And the icing on the cake to all of this would be the painting that shows all three lights, which shows Curious Light being much bigger than all of the other lights, which hints at him being vastly more powerful than all of the other lights, similar to how God is more powerful than his angels, further confirming that he is the God of doors. Now you might be wondering why this video isn't over. Well, I came across this line from Curious Light that says, the back rooms are as old as the hotel. Now this seems decently normal, but the way he says this rubs me the wrong way. He says it like he was there when it was created, implying that he didn't create the back rooms or the hotel. And past this, Curious Light straight up insults us and tells us to quit. Even if it's a false version of God like the one depicted in Lilith's story, I doubt the developers wouldn't stray away from the basic morals and judgment of the Christian/Catholic God. So who is Curious Light? Well, what if I told you that he is actually the devil? Let me explain. The devil in the Bible is known as a deceiver who will appear to be nice, but deep down is not. For Curious Light, we know that he appears to help us indoors, but we don't know what his true motives are. For Mischievous Light and Guiding Light, we know whose side they're on directly from how obvious it is if they hate us or love us. But for Curious Light, we have no idea what he wants because he tries to confuse us on whose side he's on. He helps us just enough to gain our trust, but not enough to be directly trying to help us like Guiding Light. Beyond this, let's look at Curious Light's theme. It is very similar to Guiding Light's, but it seems, again, more vague. This would make sense if Curious Light is the devil because the devil is a fallen angel, hence why the theme would be similar and not directly like Guiding Light's. Also, this would explain the size of Curious Light in the painting. The size of him implies that his power has restrictions, but he is more powerful than Mischievous and Guiding Light, also backing up the idea that he is the devil, because the devil, before he was a fallen angel, was second next to God, which lead him to betray God because of the envy he felt, leading me to believe he is trying to manipulate us to break him out of the rooms so he can cause chaos indoors/purgatory. Think about it. Curious Light never tries to directly stop us because he knows that he can't in the rooms. If we die in the rooms, we just get sent back to the doors and we can still escape purgatory. It seems like Curious Light is stuck in the rooms and can't get out due to a restriction put on him by God or an angel like Curious Light, hence why he would need to break out to go interfere with the doors. Past this, at the end of the rooms, we are greeted with a large void-filled room that leads us to a glowing door. Let's focus on the void. In the Bible, the void is a part of hell that is kind of like permanent death. It's just an infinite void that was there before the Big Bang. But the most important part is that it's a part of hell, of which is where Satan lives. This would mean that through us breaking out of the rooms, Curious Light can escape into purgatory and cause more death and destruction for at least the player's soul, claiming more lives to take away from God. So from all of this, we can conclude that doors will end with Guiding Light, trying to protect us, while Mischievous Light and Curious Light will be trying to drag us down to hell, to separate us permanently from the God of which they hate, leading to us fighting them off with Guiding Light, ending with us defeating Curious and Mischievous Light, freeing us from purgatory and leading us to heaven.